The encrypted phone buzzed at 0300 hours during my surveillance mission in Syria. My 8-year-old daughter's blood-curdling scream pierced through the static before dropping to a terrified whisper. "Daddy, they have guns. The bad men are here for me. Marcus owes them money, and now they're taking me instead. Help me. Daddy, please." A man's voice growled, "Time's up, kid," before the line died forever. Hit like, subscribe for more Betrayal stories, and comment your location. I'm Staff Sergeant Ethan Morrison, and in that moment, I realized my ex-wife had signed my daughter's death warrant. After 12 years as a Navy SEAL, I'd eliminated terrorists, infiltrated enemy compounds, and survived hell on Earth. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for hearing my innocent little girl beg for her life while I was trapped 6,000 miles away in the Syrian desert. The call came during a classified operation outside Damascus. 3 more weeks, and I'd be home with Lily. She was my entire world, had been since Emma destroyed our marriage 2 years ago with her lies and betrayal. The custody battle was vicious, but Emma's lawyer convinced the judge that Lily needed a stable home environment, not a father who disappeared into war zones. I should have fought harder, should have seen the warning signs. I tried calling back immediately. Number disconnected. Emma's phone, same result. My hands were trembling as I kept dialing. Nothing but dead silence. My daughter was gone. I found Lieutenant Rodriguez in the communications tent. "I need emergency extraction. My daughter's been kidnapped." Rodriguez looked up from his intel reports. "Morrison, you can't just... Someone took my 8-year-old girl." My voice was barely controlled fury. "They called her on MY Secure Line. This isn't some custody dispute. This is a kidnapping, and they wanted me to know about it." The look in my eyes made him step back. In 12 years of classified missions, I'd never broken protocol. Not once. He grabbed his radio. "Command, we have a family emergency requiring immediate extraction." 18 hours later, I was wheels down in San Diego, running on pure adrenaline and rage. Every minute that passed was another minute my baby girl was in the hands of monsters. Emma had remarried 10 months ago to Marcus Chun, some big-shot investment banker she'd met after our divorce. From day one, something felt wrong about him. Too flashy, too desperate to impress, throwing money around like it was nothing. But Emma was blinded by his lifestyle, the fancy cars, expensive restaurants, designer clothes. She chose him over our daughter's safety. I drove straight to their $1 million house in Carlsbad. The circular driveway was empty except for newspapers piling up. No cars. No lights. The place looked abandoned. I rang the doorbell, pounded on the door, checked every window. Nothing. That's when I spotted Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor, watching me from behind her curtains. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm looking for Emma and my daughter Lily." Her face went white. "You're the military father, aren't you?" "The SEAL." "Yes, ma'am. Where's my daughter?" She glanced around nervously before walking closer. "Those people, they left Tuesday night. But not by choice." Her voice dropped to a whisper. There were men with guns. Foreign-looking men with tattoos covering their hands. They dragged that poor little girl kicking and screaming into a black SUV with no license plates. My blood turned to ice. "Did you call the police?" Emma begged me not to. Said they'd kill Lily if anyone got involved. She was hysterical, crying that her husband had gambled away money that wasn't his. Mrs. Patterson's eyes filled with tears. That sweet baby was calling for her daddy as they drove away. The world tilted. Emma knew. She knew they were taking Lily, and she let it happen. I pulled out my encrypted phone and called Jake Sullivan, my former team leader. If anyone could help me navigate this nightmare, it was him. "Ethan, thought you were overseas for another month." "Jake, they took her. They took Lily." My voice cracked. Emma's new husband owes money to some very dangerous people, and they collected my daughter as payment. Silence. Then, "Jesus Christ. Where are you?" "Carlsbad. Emma's house." "Don't move. I'm 20 minutes out, and I'm bringing Connor and Rodriguez with me." As I waited, Staring at the empty house where my daughter should have been safe, one thing became crystal clear. Emma hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd betrayed our child. And whoever took Lily had made the biggest mistake of their lives. They'd taken a SEAL's daughter. Now they were going to learn what happens when you declare war on someone trained to win at any cost. Jake Sullivan arrived with Connor McCready and Diego Rodriguez, my old SEAL team. Seeing them brought back memories of brotherhood forged in hellfire. But today wasn't about nostalgia. Today was about war. Talk to me, Ethan, Jake said, scanning the neighborhood like the operator he still was despite retirement. I filled them in on everything. Lily's call, Emma's disappearance, Mrs. Patterson's account. Connor was already pulling up property records on his tablet, while Rodriguez checked for surveillance cameras. This Marcus Chun, Connor said, scrolling through data. Real name Marcus Delgado. Changed it legally 3 years ago. Previous addresses in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and Miami. All gambling hotspots. Son of a bitch, I muttered. Emma married a professional gambler and never told me. Jake's jaw tightened. Let's see what story the house tells us. The front door was unlocked. First red flag. Emma was paranoid about security, always checking locks twice. Inside, the scene was chaos. Couch cushions slashed open, drawers pulled out, Emma's jewelry box emptied. But this wasn't a robbery. They were looking for something specific, Rodriguez observed, photographing everything with his phone. That's when I found Lily's room. Her clothes were scattered everywhere, but her favorite stuffed unicorn, the one I'd given her for her 6th birthday, was destroyed. Torn apart at the seams, stuffing everywhere. Someone had taken their rage out on a child's toy. I knelt down, picking up pieces of purple fabric, and that's when the dam broke. My hands started shaking. This was real. My little girl had been terrified in this room, watching monsters destroy her safe space. Ethan, Connor's voice was sharp. You need to see this. He was standing in the kitchen, pointing at Emma's laptop. The screen showed an online gambling site, VegasElite.com. Marcus's account was logged in, and the numbers were staggering. Total debt, $847,293.67 creditor. Hernandez Financial Services status. Overdue. 47 days last payment. $0 payment method on file. Collateral agreement. Collateral agreement? I clicked on the link, and my world exploded. The document was a loan contract, but not for money. It was a human trafficking agreement. Marcus had literally put up Emma and Lily as collateral for his gambling debts. Their photos were attached to the file, my ex-wife and my daughter, cataloged like property. This can't be legal, Rodriguez said, reading over my shoulder. It's not, Jake replied grimly. But the Hernandez cartel doesn't operate in legal territory. They run human trafficking from Tijuana to Los Angeles. Mostly kids. Connor had pulled up more files. Marcus had been gambling online for 18 months. Started small, but the debts kept growing. He was using Emma's real estate commissions to make payments, but it wasn't enough. I kept scrolling through the contract, and each detail made me sicker. According to the terms, if Marcus defaulted on payments, the cartel had legal claim to specified collateral assets for a period of 5 years or until debt satisfaction. They own my daughter for 5 years. There's more, Connor said quietly. He'd found Emma's text message history on the laptop. She'd synced her phone. The conversation thread with Marcus from 3 days ago told the whole story. Marcus, they're coming tonight. I can't pay. Emma, what do you mean they're coming? Who's coming? Marcus, the Hernandez people. I put you and Lily down as collateral. I had to. Emma, you did what? Marcus, I was going to win it back. I had a system. Emma, oh my God, oh my God. What do we do? Marcus, we run. Pack light. Leave your phone. Emma, what about Lily? She's calling Ethan. Marcus, let her. By the time he gets here, we'll be gone. Emma, I can't do this to her. She's just a baby. Marcus, it's done, Emma. We don't have a choice anymore. The final message was from an unknown number, Sent to Emma at 11:47 p.m. Tuesday night. Unknown. Contract fulfilled. Your husband's debt transfers to the child. She's ours now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring with rage. Emma knew. She knew they were coming for Lily, and instead of fighting, instead of calling me, instead of calling the police, she ran. She saved herself and left my daughter to pay for her husband's mistakes. Where's Emma now? Jake asked. I scrolled through her location services. Her last known location was LAX Airport, Terminal 4, 3 days ago. A quick search showed international flights departing that night. She's gone, I said, my voice hollow. She took the money they probably gave her for delivering Lily and disappeared. Rodriguez was already on his phone. I've got contacts in Border Patrol. If she crossed into Mexico. She didn't, Connor interrupted, showing us his screen. Flight manifest from Tuesday night. Emma Chun, first-class ticket to Costa Rica. One way. The betrayal hit me like a sniper's bullet. Emma hadn't just failed to protect our daughter. She'd actively participated in selling her. The woman I'd once loved, the mother of my child, had become something monstrous. But the worst part was realizing that while I was serving my country, thinking I was protecting innocent people like my daughter, the real monster was sleeping in the same house as Lily every night. Jake placed a hand on my shoulder. We need to move fast. If the Hernandez cartel has her, every hour counts. I closed the laptop and stood up. The scared father was gone. The Navy SEAL was back. Then let's go hunting. Rodriguez's contact at Border Patrol came through within 2 hours. Agent Maria Santos met us at a coffee shop near the Tijuana border, her face grim as she spread surveillance photos across the table. The Hernandez cartel operates out of 3 main compounds, she explained, pointing to aerial shots. But they move kids constantly. Your daughter could be anywhere from Tijuana to Guatemala by now. My stomach dropped. Guatemala. They run a pipeline. Kids get processed in Tijuana, then moved south to permanent facilities. The longer she's been gone, the harder she'll be to find. Santos leaned forward. But there's something else. We've been tracking unusual activity at their main Tijuana compound. Multiple vehicles arriving at night, extra security. Something big is happening. Jake studied the photos. How many guards? 12 to 15, heavily armed. The compound is fortified like a military base. Chain-link fences topped with razor wire, guard towers, attack dogs. These aren't street dealers. They're professionals. Connor was already analyzing the tactical situation. Approaches. 2 roads in, both monitored. But there's a drainage canal that runs along the south side. Might give you cover. Santos hesitated. Look, I can't officially help you, but I can tell you that local police won't respond to calls about that compound. The cartel owns them. What about Marcus? I asked. Where is he? Santos pulled out another photo, Marcus Delgado being escorted by 2 men in suits. He's being held at a safe house in Rosarito Beach. Cartel keeps him alive as insurance. If his debt gets paid, they might let him live. If not, she shrugged. I want to talk to him, I said. Ethan, that's suicide, Rodriguez warned. The place is crawling with cartel soldiers. I don't care. He's the only one who knows exactly where they took Lily. Jake was quiet for a moment, then nodded. We'll need equipment. Weapons, communications, extraction plan. Santos slid a business card across the table. Call this number. Tell them Maria sent you. They'll have what you need, no questions asked. 2 hours later, we were geared up in an abandoned warehouse outside San Diego. Black tactical gear, suppressed rifles, night vision equipment. It felt like old times, except the stakes had never been higher. All right, listen up, Jake said, spreading out blueprints of the Rosarito safe house. This is a snatch and grab. We get in, extract Marcus, interrogate him, and get out. Clean and quiet. What if he doesn't talk? Connor asked. I checked my sidearm. He'll talk. The drive to Rosarito took 90 minutes. We approached the safe house at 0200 hours, using night vision to scout the perimeter. 2 guards at the front gate, 1 roving patrol, lights on in the main building. Security cameras on the north and east walls. Rodriguez whispered through our comms. I can loop the feeds from here. 30 seconds, Jake replied. Then we move. The operation went flawlessly. Rodriguez disabled the cameras. Connor took out the roving guard with a sleeper hold. Jake neutralized the gate guards with tranquilizer darts. We were inside the compound in under 3 minutes. Marcus was in the basement, chained to a chair in what looked like an interrogation room. He was barely recognizable, face swollen from beatings, clothes torn and bloody. When he saw me, his eyes went wide with terror. Ethan? Oh God, Ethan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I grabbed him by the throat. Where's my daughter? I don't know. They took her Tuesday night. I swear I don't know where. Jake pulled me back. Let me handle this. He knelt down to Marcus's eye level. Marcus, we know about the gambling debt. We know you used Lily as collateral. What we need to know is where the cartel processes new kids. Marcus broke down sobbing. The compound in Tijuana. Warehouse District, Building 47. But they only keep them there for 2 days, then they move them to the permanent facilities. What permanent facilities? I demanded. There's a ranch in Guatemala. El Refugio. That's where they. He couldn't finish the sentence. My blood ran cold. Where they what, Marcus? Where they train them, break them down, make them compliant. He looked up at me with hollow eyes. Ethan, I never meant for this to happen. I thought I could win the money back. I hit him so hard his chair toppled over. You thought? You gambled away my daughter's life. Easy, Ethan, Jake warned, but I could see the rage in his eyes too. Connor was monitoring radio chatter. We've got company. 3 vehicles approaching fast. We had what we needed. As we prepared to extract, Marcus grabbed my leg. Wait, there's something else. The cartel boss, Javier Hernandez, he's obsessed with American military families. Thinks it's the ultimate victory, breaking the children of soldiers. When he found out Lily's father was a SEAL, Marcus's voice trailed off. What? He put a special bounty on her. She's not going to the regular processing. She's going straight to his personal compound. His trophy collection. The room went silent. A personal compound meant better security, but it also meant we had more time. Javier would want to savor his victory. Where's this personal compound? Jake asked. I don't know the exact location. Somewhere in the mountains outside Tijuana. But I know someone who does. Marcus looked directly at me. Emma. She made a deal with them. Information about your military service in exchange for her freedom. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. Emma hadn't just abandoned Lily. She'd actively helped the cartel by providing intelligence about me. She told them about your deployments, your specialties, your psychological profile. Everything. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. She wanted them to know exactly what kind of enemy they were making. As we extracted from the safe house, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't just about rescuing my daughter anymore. Emma had declared war on me personally, and Javier Hernandez thought he was collecting a trophy. They were both about to learn that some trophies fight back. We drove straight from Rosarito to the Costa Rica embassy in Tijuana. If Emma had fled there, she'd need to register with American Consular Services. Rodriguez had a contact inside, former Navy intelligence who owed him favors from their Afghanistan days. She's here, Rodriguez announced, reading the encrypted message on his phone. Emma Chun, registered 3 days ago at the Embassy Hotel under protective custody, claims she's fleeing domestic violence. Domestic violence, I spat. She's fleeing the consequences of selling her own daughter. Jake was already planning our approach. Embassy District is neutral territory. We can't just kick down doors. We need her to come to us willingly. She won't, Connor said. Why would she risk exposure? I stared out at the Tijuana skyline, thinking, Emma always had one weakness, her need to justify herself. She couldn't live with being seen as the villain. She will if she thinks she can convince me this wasn't her fault. 2 hours later, I sat alone in a cantina 3 blocks from the embassy, waiting. I'd sent Emma a message through official channels. Need to hear your side before I go after Lily. Cantina Rosa, 8 p.m. Come alone, or I'll assume you're guilty of everything. At 8:17 p.m., she walked in. Emma looked like she'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Designer clothes wrinkled, hair unwashed, eyes red from crying. But what struck me most was how she held herself, like a woman who knew she was already dead. She sat across from me without speaking, ordering tequila with shaking hands. Start talking, I said. You have to understand, Ethan. I never wanted this to happen. Her voice was barely audible. Marcus promised me he could control his gambling. He said he had a system. You signed a collateral agreement, Emma. Your signature is on the document putting Lily up as payment. She flinched like I'd slapped her. He forged my signature at first. I didn't know about the agreement until 2 weeks ago. By then, the debt was already massive. 2 weeks. My fists clenched. You knew for 2 weeks that our daughter was collateral for a cartel loan, and you didn't call me. Marcus said he could fix it. He had one more big bet, a sure thing that would pay everything off. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Tears started flowing. I was so tired of struggling, Ethan. The divorce, the custody battle, working 60-hour weeks just to pay rent. Marcus offered me a life where I didn't have to worry about money anymore. So you sold our daughter for financial security? No. She slammed her glass down. I tried to leave him. 2 weeks ago, when I found out about the agreement, I packed our bags. But Marcus said if I left, the cartel would come after Lily anyway. He said the only way to protect her was to pay off the debt. I leaned forward. Then why didn't you call me? Emma's composure cracked completely. Because I was ashamed. Because I knew you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me now. Like I'm a monster who destroyed our daughter's life for money. You are a monster, Emma. You let them take her. I fought them, she screamed, causing other patrons to stare. She lowered her voice. Tuesday night, when they came for her, I fought them. Look at my arms. She rolled up her sleeves, showing deep bruises and scratch marks. I tried to stop them from taking Lily. But there were 4 men with guns, and Marcus was begging me not to get us all killed. They said if I cooperated, if I gave them information about you, they'd treat her well. They said she'd be safe. Information about me? Emma's face crumbled. Your military records. Your psychological evaluations. Your weaknesses. She pulled out a folder from her purse. They wanted to know how to break you if you came looking for her. I grabbed the folder. Inside were copies of my classified service records, psychological profiles from my SEAL training, even transcripts of our marriage counseling sessions. Everything about my mental state, my triggers, my deepest fears. How did you get classified military documents? Marcus had connections. People who could access databases for the right price. She was shaking now. I told myself I was protecting her. That if they understood you were dangerous, they'd be more careful with Lily. But I know I just made it worse. Where is she, Emma? I don't know exactly. But I have this. She slid a burner phone across the table. They gave it to me. Said I could call once a week to check on her, as long as I stayed quiet and didn't contact you. I grabbed the phone, scrolling through the call history. One number, called every day since Tuesday. What did they tell you about her condition? Emma's voice broke. She's alive. Scared, but alive. They're keeping her at some kind of training facility in the mountains. They said she couldn't continue. They said what? They said she's special. That Javier Hernandez has big plans for her, because she's a SEAL's daughter. That she's going to be his masterpiece. The words hit me like shrapnel. I'd heard rumors about Hernandez's masterpiece collection, children of high-profile targets who were broken down and rebuilt as trophies. Living proof of the cartel's power over American authority figures. There's more, Emma whispered. The phone has a tracking app. Every time I call, it shows me her location for exactly 30 seconds. I've been mapping it. She pulled out a notebook filled with coordinates and sketches. For 3 days, she'd been obsessively tracking our daughter's movements. She's been in the same location for 24 hours. Here, Emma pointed to a coordinate in the Sierra Madre Mountains. Whatever they're doing to her, it's happening at this facility. I studied her notes. The location was remote, heavily forested, accessible only by mountain roads. Perfect for a hidden compound. Why are you helping me now? Emma met my eyes for the first time. Because I realized something sitting in that embassy hotel room. I may have lost the right to be her mother, but she still deserves to have her father save her. And because... She paused. Because I love her more than I hate myself. You should hate yourself. I do. Every second of every day. She stood up, leaving the phone and notebook on the table. But self-hatred won't bring her home. You will. As she walked toward the door, I called out, Emma. She turned back. When this is over, when Lily is safe, you and I are going to have a very different conversation about consequences. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. I'll be waiting. After she left, I sat staring at the coordinates in her notebook. My daughter was 60 miles away in a cartel compound, being prepared as a trophy for a monster who thought he could break the spirit of a SEAL's child. He was about to learn that some families don't break. They break others. Back at the warehouse, I spread Emma's coordinates and sketches across the table. Jake, Connor, and Rodriguez studied the intelligence while I explained the meeting. Sierra Madre Mountains, 60 miles southeast of Tijuana, I said, pointing to the location. Heavily forested, single-access road. Perfect defensive position. Connor was already pulling satellite imagery on his laptop. Jesus, look at this place. The compound appeared on his screen, a sprawling complex carved into the mountainside. Multiple buildings, guard towers, what looked like training facilities. It wasn't just a hideout. It was a military installation. That's not a cartel operation, Rodriguez observed. That's a small army. Jake counted the structures. At least 40 buildings. Barracks, weapons storage, vehicle depot. We're looking at 200 personnel minimum. 200 against 4, Connor muttered. I've had better odds. We're not going in guns blazing, I said. This is a precision extraction. Get in, find Lily, get out. With what support? Rodriguez asked. We can't call in air strikes on foreign soil. Mexican military won't help us because the cartel owns half their officers. We're completely on our own. That's when Jake made a phone call that changed everything. Tommy? It's Jake Sullivan. I need the old crew for an off-books operation. Yes, that kind of operation. Mexico. A child rescue. I know what I'm asking. 20 minutes later, Jake hung up with a grim smile. Tommy Martinez is flying down from San Diego with his team. Marcus Wright is driving up from his ranch in Texas. Danny Chun, no relation to your ex's husband, is taking leave from his police job in Phoenix. How many total? 12 operators. All former SEALs. All with active clearances. All with nothing left to lose. Jake's expression hardened. Tommy's daughter died in a car accident last year. Marcus lost his son to an IED in Iraq. Danny's wife was murdered by cartel soldiers in Juarez. These men understand what we're fighting for. Connor was studying the satellite images more closely. There's something else. Look at the thermal signatures. He'd overlaid heat mapping on the compound images. While most buildings showed normal activity, one structure in the center glowed with unusual heat patterns. That's not residential heating, Rodriguez noted. That's industrial equipment. Medical equipment. My blood went cold. What kind of medical equipment? The kind used for psychological conditioning, Jake said quietly. Sensory deprivation, chemical manipulation, neural programming. They're not just holding her. They're trying to break her mind. I stood up so fast my chair toppled over. We leave tonight. Ethan, wait. Connor grabbed my arm. Look at the access routes. Single mountain road, heavily monitored. They'll see us coming from 10 miles away. Then we don't use the road. Jake was already thinking tactically. Helicopter insertion? Too noisy. They'll hear us coming. Rodriguez studied topographical maps. But there's a river system that runs along the eastern ridge. Rapids would mask our approach sounds. Water insertion in mountain terrain? Connor shook his head. That's suicide. The current alone could kill us before we reach the compound. Not if we know the water patterns, I said, remembering something from Emma's notes. She tracked Lily's location for 3 days. The coordinates never changed, which means the compound has a water source. That river feeds directly into their facility. Tommy Martinez arrived 2 hours later with 5 operators I recognized from joint training exercises. Marcus Wright rolled in with 3 Texas Rangers who'd volunteered for vacation time. Danny Chun brought 2 Phoenix SWAT officers who'd lost partners to cartel violence. The warehouse became a tactical operations center. Maps covered every surface. Weapons were cleaned and loaded, communications equipment tested. It felt like the old days, except the mission parameters were personal. Intel briefing. Jake announced, calling everyone together. I stood before 12 of the most dangerous men I'd ever served with. Men who'd volunteered to risk everything for a child they'd never met. Target is Lily Morrison, age 8, held at a cartel compound 60 miles into Mexican territory. Primary objective is extraction and safe return to U.S. soil. Secondary objective is elimination of threat to prevent future kidnappings. Tommy stepped forward. Rules of engagement? Anyone holding a weapon in that compound is a hostile. Anyone who gets between us and that little girl doesn't leave alive. I looked each man in the eye. But this isn't a revenge mission. We get the child and we get out. Marcus Wright, the Texas Ranger, raised his hand. What about civilian casualties? Kitchen staff, maintenance workers? We minimize collateral damage, but Lily's safety comes first. If someone threatens her life, we eliminate the threat. Danny Chun was studying the thermal imaging. What's our extraction timeline? Fast and clean. We have maybe a 6-hour window before Mexican military responds to gunfire in the mountains. After that, we're fighting 2 enemies. Connor had prepared individual mission packets for each operator. Insertion via river approach at 0300 hours. Team 1 secures the perimeter. Team 2 locates the target. Team 3 provides overwatch and extraction support. Rodriguez added, communications are critical. The compound likely has signal jammers, so we use hardwired backup systems. As the briefing concluded, Tommy pulled me aside. Ethan, I need to ask, are you prepared for what we might find in there? These people specialize in psychological torture. Your daughter might not be the same girl you remember. The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd been so focused on the tactical aspects of the mission that I hadn't fully considered the emotional reality. Lily had been in cartel hands for 4 days. What had they done to her mind? She's strong, I said, trying to convince myself as much as Tommy. She called me from Syria. She fought back when they took her. She's a fighter. 8-year-old fighters can only take so much, brother. I looked around the warehouse at 12 men preparing to risk their lives for my daughter. Men with their own losses, their own reasons for understanding that some things are worth dying for. Then we make sure she doesn't have to fight anymore. The final preparations took 3 hours. Weapons, communications, medical supplies, extraction equipment. Everything we needed to assault a fortified position and bring home one small girl who represented everything worth protecting in this world. As we loaded into vehicles for the drive to the river insertion point, Jake placed a hand on my shoulder. We're going to bring her home, Ethan. I nodded, checking my rifle one final time. We're going to bring her home, and we're going to make sure this never happens to another family. The convoy pulled out into the Mexican night, carrying 12 men toward a reckoning that had been building since the moment my daughter whispered, "Help me," across a satellite connection from half a world away. The Rio Sangre lived up to its name. Blood River carved through the Sierra Madre Mountains like a jagged wound, its rapids churning white in the moonlight as our 12-man team prepared for insertion. Water temperature is 52 degrees, Rodriguez reported, checking his instruments. Current speed averages 8 knots, but there are Class 4 rapids about 2 miles upstream from the compound. Tommy Martinez finished waterproofing his equipment. How long underwater? Initial submersion will be 90 seconds to avoid thermal detection, Connor explained. Then we surface swim the final half-mile using the canyon walls for cover. I adjusted my rebreather and checked the waterproof case containing Lily's medical records and a photo from her 7th birthday. Whatever condition we found her in, I needed proof of identity for the extraction team. Marcus Wright was studying the compound blueprints one final time. Once we're inside, what's our rally point if things go sideways? Emergency extraction is the water treatment facility on the compound's eastern edge, Jake answered. It connects directly to the river system. If we get separated, everyone converges there. Danny Chen raised a concern that had been nagging at me. What if they've moved her? Emma's intel is 3 days old. Then we adapt and overcome, I said, sliding into the frigid water. But that thermal signature suggests ongoing medical procedures. They wouldn't invest this much time and equipment just to relocate her. The insertion began at 0247 hours. We entered the water in pairs, using specialized diving equipment designed for cold water operations. The current immediately grabbed us, pulling us downstream toward the compound. Underwater, the Rio Sangre was a nightmare of jagged rocks and swirling currents. My dive computer showed we were moving faster than anticipated, 12 knots instead of 8. The rapids Connor had mentioned weren't just class 4. They were borderline suicidal. Through my mask, I could see Tommy struggling against a cross-current that was pulling him toward a boulder field. Rodriguez broke protocol to assist, using his fins to redirect Tommy away from the rocks. 90 seconds felt like 90 minutes. When we finally surfaced, we were exactly where we needed to be, in the shadow of the compound's outer perimeter, hidden by overhanging rock formations that blocked thermal imaging. Head count, Jake whispered through our bone conduction comms. 12 voices confirmed. Everyone had made it through the insertion alive. The compound loomed above us, built into the mountainside like a medieval fortress. Concrete walls merged seamlessly with natural rock formations, making it nearly impossible to distinguish man-made structures from the mountain itself. Movement on the eastern tower, Marcus reported. Single guard, rotating patrol pattern every 45 seconds. Connor was already calculating approach vectors. Blind spot exists for 12 seconds during each rotation. That's our window. We moved in 3 teams as planned. Team 1, Tommy, Marcus, Danny, and Rodriguez, would secure the perimeter and eliminate external threats. Team 2, Jake, Connor, 2 Phoenix officers, and myself, would locate and extract Lily. Team 3, the remaining Texas Rangers, would provide overwatch and covering fire for our retreat. The ascent to the compound walls took 18 minutes of careful climbing. The rock face was slick from river moisture, and loose shale threatened to give away our position with every handhold. At 0312 hours, we reached the outer fence. Electrified, Tommy whispered, testing the wire with a voltage detector. But not alarmed. They're relying on the remote location for security. Rodriguez had the solution. Insulated wire cutters that could breach the fence without triggering sensors. We created a 4-foot gap and slipped through one at a time. Inside the perimeter, the compound was larger than satellite images had suggested. What looked like 40 buildings from above were actually interconnected structures forming a massive underground complex built into the mountain. Thermal readings are coming from the central medical facility, Connor confirmed, checking his handheld scanner. Heavy concentration of body heat in the basement levels. That's when we heard something that made my blood freeze. Children crying. Not just Lily, multiple children, their voices echoing from somewhere deep within the medical facility. The Hernandez cartel wasn't just holding my daughter. They were running a full-scale child trafficking operation. Change of mission parameters, I announced through comms. We extract all the children. Ethan, that's not tactically feasible, Jake warned. We don't have transport capacity for multiple targets. Then we make capacity. My voice left no room for argument. No child gets left behind. Tommy's voice crackled through the calm movement in the main courtyard. Guard change happening now. 12 soldiers heading toward the barracks. 12 fresh guards taking positions. Perfect timing. During guard changes, there's always a 30-second window where coverage overlaps and communications are disrupted. We moved. Team 1 neutralized 2 perimeter guards using suppressed weapons and concealment techniques. Team 2 breached the medical facility through a maintenance entrance Connor had identified. Team 3 established overwatch positions with clear fields of fire. Inside the medical facility, the reality was worse than I'd imagined. The basement level contained 12 cells, each holding 2 to 3 children aged 6 to 12. They were in various states of psychological conditioning, some catatonic, others aggressive, all showing signs of systematic abuse. Jesus Christ, Jake whispered, seeing the extent of the operation. In the center cell, I found her. Lily was curled in the corner, wearing a hospital gown, her hair cut short, and her eyes unfocused from whatever drugs they'd given her. But she was alive, and when she saw me, recognition flickered across her face. "Daddy." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here." As I unlocked her cell, she fell into my arms, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the mission, not the other children, not the cartel soldiers who would soon discover our presence. My daughter was alive. But our reunion was interrupted by Connor's urgent voice through comms. "Ethan, we've got incoming. 3 vehicles, heavily armed, ETA 2 minutes. Someone knows we're here." I looked around at the other cells, at 11 more children who deserved the same chance at freedom my daughter was getting. "All teams, prepare for immediate extraction. We're taking everyone." The most dangerous part of the mission was about to begin. "Daddy, don't trust Marcus," Lily whispered as I carried her toward the extraction point. "He's not who you think he is." I stopped dead in my tracks. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "The doctor's here. They made me watch videos. Marcus isn't a gambler. He's a police officer. A special police officer who catches bad guys like these men." My world tilted. If Marcus wasn't a gambling addict, then everything we believed about this operation was wrong. Jake's voice crackled through comms. "Ethan, those incoming vehicles just stopped. They're not attacking. They're surrounding the compound like they're setting up a perimeter." Through the facility windows, I could see the vehicles Jake mentioned. Black SUVs with government plates, not cartel transportation. Men in tactical gear were taking defensive positions around the compound, but they weren't shooting at us. They were protecting us. Connor's voice was tense. Movement from the main building. "Someone's coming out with their hands up. It's Marcus." I handed Lily to Rodriguez and moved to the window. Marcus Delgado was walking across the courtyard, wearing a DEA tactical vest, his hands raised, but holding what looked like federal identification. "All teams, hold fire," I commanded. "Something's not right here." Marcus approached our position and called out, "Agent Marcus Delgado, DEA Undercover Operations. I need to speak with Ethan Morrison immediately." Jake appeared at my shoulder. This could be a trap, or it could be the reason my daughter knew things she shouldn't know. I stepped outside, weapon lowered but ready. Marcus looked exhausted, his face bearing fresh bruises, but his eyes were clear and focused. "Ethan, I've been undercover with the Hernandez cartel for 18 months. Emma didn't know. Nobody knew except my handler. You're telling me this entire kidnapping was part of a federal operation?" "No." Marcus shook his head. "The kidnapping was real. But my gambling addiction, my debt to the cartel, that was my cover story. I've been feeding the FBI intelligence about their trafficking network." The pieces started falling into place. "Then why didn't you stop them from taking Lily?" Marcus's face crumpled. "Because my cover was blown 3 weeks ago. Someone leaked my identity to Javier Hernandez. He kept me alive as bait, knowing you'd come for your daughter. This compound isn't just a trafficking center. It's a trap designed specifically for you." "A trap for me?" Hernandez has been planning this for months. When he found out Emma was married to a Navy SEAL, he saw an opportunity. He wanted to prove that the cartel could break American military families. Taking Lily was never about Marcus's fake debt. It was about drawing you into Mexican territory where he could capture or kill you. Jake stepped forward. Then who are those federal agents outside? My backup team. When I realized Hernandez was using your daughter as bait for a larger operation, I broke cover and called for extraction. But we were too late to prevent the kidnapping. Marcus looked directly at me. Ethan, there's something else. Emma wasn't running from domestic violence. She was running from Hernandez. He threatened to kill her if she didn't provide detailed intelligence about your psychological profile. The betrayal I'd felt toward Emma began shifting into something more complex. She was being blackmailed, coerced through terror. Hernandez showed her videos of what happens to families who don't cooperate. She gave him your military records to save Lily's life, not to destroy it. Rodriguez appeared with Lily in his arms. Boss, we need to move. There's activity in the lower levels. Someone's activating some kind of self-destruct protocol. Marcus's face went white. Hernandez isn't here. He never intended to be here when you arrived. This entire facility is rigged to explode once he confirmed you'd taken the bait. Where is he? His real compound, 50 miles north. He's been watching this operation through live feeds, waiting for you to rescue your daughter so he could eliminate the entire rescue team and claim victory over American Special Forces. The sound of helicopter rotors filled the air. Not one helicopter, multiple aircraft approaching from different directions. That's not federal backup, Marcus said grimly. Those are Hernandez's reinforcements. He's coming to finish what he started. I grabbed my rifle and activated team comms. All teams, immediate extraction with all children. This location is compromised and potentially rigged for demolition. Connor's voice was urgent. Ethan, the other kids are in bad shape. Some can't walk. Others are completely unresponsive. We need medical transport. The federal team has medical helicopters, Marcus said. But we need to reach the landing zone before Hernandez's forces arrive. As we prepared to move 12 traumatized children across hostile terrain, Lily tugged on my vest. Daddy, there's something else the doctors told me. They said Emma made a deal with the other bad man. Not Hernandez, but someone else. Someone who wanted to hurt Hernandez. What other bad man? They called him El Sombra, the Shadow. Emma promised to help him find Hernandez if he helped her disappear. Marcus grabbed my arm. El Sombra is Miguel Vasquez, head of the rival Tijuana cartel. If Emma made a deal with him, the implications hit me like a freight train. Emma hadn't just been coerced by Hernandez. She'd been playing both cartels against each other, using our daughter's kidnapping as leverage in a war between criminal organizations. The approaching helicopters were getting louder, and I could see muzzle flashes in the distance as two different armed groups engaged each other in the valley below. We weren't just caught in a trap. We were caught in the middle of a cartel war. Move, 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 I shouted as explosions rocked the compound behind us. Hernandez had triggered his demolition charges early. The medical facility where we'd found the children was now a pile of burning rubble. If we'd been 30 seconds slower, Lily and the other 11 kids would be dead. Marcus led us through a hidden tunnel system he'd mapped during his undercover operation. This connects to the vehicle depot. Federal extraction team is waiting with armored transport. Jake carried 2 of the smaller children, while Connor and Rodriguez helped the ones who could still walk. Tommy and his team provided rear guard, engaging Hernandez's soldiers who were pursuing us through the smoke and chaos. Contact rear. Danny Chin's voice crackled through comms. Multiple hostiles, automatic weapons. The tunnel filled with the sound of suppressed gunfire as our rear guard engaged the pursuing cartel soldiers. We had maybe a 2-minute head start before they overran our position. Lily, I need you to be brave for me, I whispered to my daughter as we ran. Can you help the other kids stay calm? She nodded, her eyes still unfocused from whatever drugs they'd given her. but her voice was steady. "It's okay," she told a boy who was crying. "My daddy is a superhero. He's going to save all of us." The tunnel opened into the vehicle depot, where 3 black Humvees waited with engines running. Federal agents in full tactical gear were loading medical equipment and defensive positions. "Agent Morrison?" A woman in DEA tactical gear approached me. "Agent Sarah Martinez, Marcus's handler. We have medical evacuation standing by, but we need to reach the landing zone." "What's the tactical situation?" "2 cartel armies are fighting each other in the valley. Hernandez's forces are trying to prevent your escape, while El Sombra's people are attacking Hernandez's positions. We're caught in a 3-way firefight." Marcus was helping load the traumatized children into the armored vehicles. "The landing zone is 2 miles north, but the road is under heavy fire. We'll have to fight our way through." As we prepared to leave, one of the rescued children, a boy about 10 years old, grabbed Marcus's arm. "You're the nice man who brought us food," the boy said in broken English. "You promised you'd get us out." Marcus knelt down to the child's level. "I keep my promises, son. All of you are going home today." That's when I realized the full scope of Marcus's sacrifice. He'd maintained his undercover identity for 18 months, watching children suffer, unable to help them without blowing his cover and destroying the entire operation. "How long have you been planning this extraction?" I asked him. "Since the day I arrived. Every child who came through that facility, I documented. Every guard rotation, every security weakness, every possible escape route." Marcus checked his weapon. "Your daughter's kidnapping just gave us the justification to act." The convoy moved out under heavy fire. Hernandez's soldiers had positioned themselves along the mountain road, using RPGs and heavy machine guns to block our escape route. But they hadn't counted on El Sombra's forces attacking from their flanks. "This is insane," Connor muttered as bullets shattered the Humvee's armored windows. "We're in the middle of a cartel war zone." Through the chaos, I could see the federal extraction helicopters waiting at the landing zone. 2 Black Hawks with medical teams and a heavy Chinook for personnel transport. But between us and safety lay half a mile of open ground swept by crossfire from 2 different armies. Tommy's voice came through comms from the lead vehicle. "Roadblock ahead. Burning trucks across the highway. Ram through it," Agent Martinez ordered. "We don't stop for anything." The lead Humvee smashed through the burning vehicles, its armored hull scraping against twisted metal as we plowed through the debris. Behind us, Marcus's vehicle took an RPG hit that shattered the rear window but didn't penetrate the armor. "Everyone okay back there?" I called through the radio. "Vehicle damage, no casualties," Marcus reported. "But we're leaking fuel. Won't make it much further." The landing zone was visible ahead, a cleared hilltop where the helicopters waited with rotors spinning. But Hernandez's soldiers had reached the same hilltop and were engaging the federal air crews in a desperate firefight. "LZ is hot," the pilot's voice crackled through our comms. "Multiple hostiles in the tree line. We need immediate fire support." That's when Jake made the call that saved all our lives. "All teams, dismount and advance on foot. We clear the LZ by fire and movement." We left the damaged vehicles and advanced toward the helicopters in combat formation, the 12 SEAL operators moving like a single organism while federal agents protected the children. The firefight lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, 14 cartel soldiers lay dead in the tree line, and our extraction helicopters were secure. As we loaded the children into the medical helicopter, Lily grabbed my hand. "Daddy, are the bad men all gone?" I looked back at the burning compound in the valley, where 2 cartel armies were still destroying each other in a war that Emma's manipulation had helped start. "The bad men can't hurt you anymore, baby. You're safe now." But even as I said it, I knew this wasn't over. Emma was still out there, and her deal with El Sombra meant more violence was coming. Marcus appeared at my shoulder as the helicopters lifted off. "Ethan, there's something else you need to know about Emma's arrangement with Vasquez." "What?" She didn't just promise to help him find Hernandez. She promised to deliver you to him as well. As we flew towards safety, carrying 12 rescued children, including my daughter, I realized the real war was just beginning. The FBI safe house in San Diego should have felt like sanctuary. Instead, it felt like another trap waiting to spring. Lily was sleeping in the medical unit, finally free from the drugs the cartel had pumped into her system. The other 11 children were receiving trauma counseling and medical care. For the first time in 5 days, I could breathe. That's when Agent Martinez dropped the bombshell that shattered everything I thought I knew. Ethan, we need to talk about Emma. What about her? Marcus already told me she was being blackmailed by Hernandez. Martinez exchanged glances with Marcus before sitting across from me. That's not entirely accurate. We've been monitoring Emma's activities for the past 6 months. She wasn't a victim. She was an active participant. My blood went cold. Participant in what? Operation Fallen Angel. Emma has been working as an informant for the Vasquez cartel, feeding them intelligence about Hernandez's operations. Martinez slid a thick file across the table. She wasn't coerced into anything. She volunteered. I opened the file and found surveillance photos, recorded phone conversations, and bank statements. The evidence was overwhelming. Emma had been receiving payments from Miguel Vasquez for months, long before Marcus's fake gambling addiction, long before Lily's kidnapping. This doesn't make sense. Why would she risk Lily's life for cartel money? Marcus leaned forward. Because she wasn't risking Lily's life. She was using it as leverage. Emma knew about my undercover operation from the beginning. The room went silent. I stared at Marcus, trying to process what he'd just said. You told Emma you were DEA? I didn't tell her anything. She figured it out. Marcus pulled out his phone and played a recorded conversation. Emma's voice was crystal clear. I know you're not really a gambler, Marcus. Real gambling addicts don't have encrypted satellite phones hidden in their sock drawers. The question is, are you FBI or DEA? Emma, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm married to a Navy SEAL, remember? I know what surveillance equipment looks like. I also know what federal pay grades look like, and your lifestyle doesn't match your supposed investment banker's salary. What do you want? I want in on whatever operation you're running. And I want protection for me and Lily when it's over. I felt like I'd been shot. She knew you were federal law enforcement, and she still let them take Lily? Martinez continued the explanation. Emma made a deal with both sides. She gave Hernandez intelligence about your military background to make the kidnapping believable, while secretly feeding Vasquez information about Hernandez's compound locations and security weaknesses. But why risk Lily? Because she knew we'd rescue her, Marcus said quietly. Emma calculated that having her daughter kidnapped by one cartel would give her credibility with the other cartel. She also knew that once you were involved, federal resources would be committed to the rescue operation. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I couldn't speak for several minutes. Martinez showed me more evidence. Emma's been planning this for almost a year. She researched your psychological profile, your tactical training, your response patterns. She knew exactly how you'd react to Lily's kidnapping. She used our daughter as bait in a cartel war. She used your daughter as leverage to position herself as Miguel Vasquez's most valuable asset. With Hernandez's organization destroyed and you eliminating his security team, Emma delivered everything she promised. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Emma was probably celebrating her successful manipulation of everyone involved, including me. Where is she now? Costa Rica was a diversion. She flew from there to Colombia, then to a private airfield in Venezuela. Current location unknown, but she's under the protection of the Vasquez cartel. Marcus added the final piece of the puzzle. There's more. Emma didn't just betray you and Lily. She betrayed me too. Vasquez knew about the federal operation because Emma told him. That's how my cover was blown. You mean? I mean Emma sold out a federal agent, endangered 12 other children, and orchestrated her own daughter's kidnapping. all to secure her position in a criminal organization. The weight of Emma's betrayal was crushing. The woman I'd married, the mother of my child, had calculated every move to destroy the lives of everyone who trusted her. Agent Martinez's phone buzzed. She answered, listened for a moment, then hung up with a grim expression. That was our intelligence unit. We've intercepted communications between Emma and Miguel Vasquez. She's not finished. Phase 2 of her plan is already in motion. Phase 2. Eliminating loose ends. Anyone who can testify about her involvement in the trafficking operation. Martinez looked directly at me. That includes you, Marcus, and Lily. She's coming after her own daughter? Lily can identify her as being present during the kidnapping negotiations. Emma can't risk that testimony if this ever goes to trial. I felt the familiar coldness of combat settling over me. Emma had declared war on her own family, and she'd made the mistake of thinking I wouldn't fight back. How long do we have? Vasquez's hit team crossed the border 6 hours ago. They're already in San Diego. Marcus was checking his weapon. This safe house isn't safe anymore. As alarms began sounding throughout the facility, I realized that rescuing Lily from the cartel compound had been the easy part. Now I had to protect her from her own mother. The federal courthouse in downtown San Diego was a fortress of marble and steel, but it felt fragile compared to the mountain compound we'd assaulted 6 months ago. Today, justice would finally be served. I adjusted my dress uniform, full navy blues with combat decorations, as I prepared to testify against Emma. Lily sat in the witness protection area with a child psychologist, ready to tell her story to the jury. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams. The courtroom was packed. Media, federal agents, families of the other rescued children, and Emma's defense team, led by the most expensive lawyer Miguel Vasquez's money could buy. Emma looked different. Gone was the broken woman I'd met in that Mexican cantina. Her hair was styled, her makeup perfect, wearing a conservative blue suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. She looked confident, even arrogant. The prosecution had built an airtight case. Phone records, bank statements, surveillance footage, recorded conversations, and testimony from Marcus about her involvement in the trafficking operation. District Attorney Rebecca Stone stood to address the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a mother who sold her own child to advance her position in a criminal organization. Emma Chun didn't just betray her family. She betrayed every principle of human decency. Emma's lawyer, David Richardson, countered with a different narrative. My client is a victim of domestic abuse who made desperate decisions to protect her daughter from violent criminals. She was coerced through terror and threats. But the evidence was overwhelming. Marcus took the stand first, his federal credentials lending weight to every word. Emma Chin approached me about my undercover operation. She wasn't coerced or threatened. She saw an opportunity for profit and took it. The recorded conversation where Emma revealed she knew about Marcus's DEA identity played for the jury. Her voice was calm, calculated, showing no signs of fear or coercion. She negotiated the terms of her cooperation with the Vasquez cartel like a business transaction. Marcus continued. Payment schedules, intelligence deliveries, even contingency plans if the operation failed. When my turn came, I testified about finding Lily in that cartel compound, about the psychological torture she'd endured, about the 11 other children who'd been trafficked through the same network Emma had helped operate. Your ex-wife knew her daughter would be traumatized by this experience? DA Stone asked. She calculated it as acceptable collateral damage for her long-term financial security. I replied, looking directly at Emma. She didn't flinch. The defense tried to paint Emma as a terrified mother making impossible choices under duress. But then Agent Martinez testified about Emma's financial records. The defendant received over $400,000 in payments from the Vasquez cartel over 8 months. These weren't coercion payments. They were compensation for services rendered. The bank records showed Emma had used cartel money to purchase luxury items, designer clothes, expensive jewelry, a new car. Not the spending pattern of a terrified victim. But the most damaging testimony came from an unexpected source. Miguel Vasquez himself, now in federal custody after his organization was dismantled, took the stand as a government witness in exchange for a reduced sentence. Emma Chun was my most valuable asset, Vasquez testified through a translator. She provided detailed intelligence about Hernandez's operations, including guard schedules, security weaknesses, and shipping routes. Did you threaten her or her daughter to secure this cooperation? D.A. Stone asked. No. Emma approached us. She said she wanted revenge against Hernandez and was willing to help us destroy his organization. What did she want in return? Money, protection, and a new identity after the operation was complete. The courtroom was silent as Vasquez continued. Emma suggested using her daughter as bait to draw out her ex-husband's military team. She said American Special Forces involvement would give us the justification to eliminate Hernandez's entire security apparatus. Emma's lawyer objected repeatedly, but the damage was done. The final witness was the most heartbreaking. Lily, now 9 years old and having spent months in therapy, testified via closed-circuit television to protect her privacy. Her voice was steady but small. Mommy knew the bad men were coming. She packed a suitcase before they arrived. She told me to be brave and that Daddy would come get me, but it might take a while. Did your mother seem scared when the men took you? D.A. Stone asked gently. No. She seemed sad, but not scared. She hugged me and said everything would work out the way it was supposed to. The defense's case collapsed under the weight of evidence. Emma's own words, recorded conversations, financial records, and testimony from multiple witnesses painted a picture of calculated betrayal, not desperate victimization. During closing arguments, D.A. Stone summarized the prosecution's case. Emma Chun didn't just commit crimes. She weaponized motherhood itself. She used her daughter's innocence and her ex-husband's love as tools in a criminal conspiracy. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. On the charge of conspiracy to commit human trafficking, guilty. On the charge of child endangerment, guilty. On the charge of racketeering, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. Judge Williams sentenced Emma to life in prison without possibility of parole. As the bailiffs led Emma away in shackles, she finally looked at me. For just a moment, the confident facade cracked, and I saw something that might have been regret. But it was too late for regret. Outside the courthouse, Marcus found me sitting on the steps, holding Lily's hand as she fed pigeons. It's over, he said simply. No, I replied, watching my daughter smile for the first time in months. It's just beginning. 2 years later, I stood on the beach in Coronado, watching Lily build sandcastles with the focused determination she'd inherited from me. The Pacific waves crashed rhythmically against the shore, washing away the remnants of old structures and making space for new ones. Daddy, look, I made a fortress that can't be broken, she called out, her voice bright with the innocence we'd fought so hard to restore. The therapy had worked. Dr. Sarah Chun, no relation to Emma, had guided Lily through the trauma with patience and skill. The nightmares had stopped 6 months ago. The hypervigilance had faded. My daughter was healing. It's perfect, sweetheart, I called back, meaning every word. Marcus appeared beside me, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the beachside cafe where we'd agreed to meet. He'd resigned from the DEA after the trial, started a private security firm specializing in child protection services. The experience with Emma had changed him, made him realize that some battles are too personal for federal bureaucracy. How's she doing? He asked, watching Lily carefully arrange seashells around her fortress. Better every day. Her teacher says she's reading at a high school level now. The trauma, it's like it sharpened her mind somehow, made her stronger. And you? I considered the question. The nightmares had taken longer to fade for me than for Lily. The guilt of not seeing Emma's true nature sooner, of not protecting my daughter from her own mother's betrayal, that had been harder to heal than any physical wound from combat. I'm learning to forgive myself, I admitted. Marcus nodded. Emma made her choices. You responded to protect your child. That's what fathers do. The past 2 years had brought closure in ways I hadn't expected. The other 11 children we'd rescued from that compound were all in loving homes now. 3 had been reunited with families who thought they were dead. 8 had been placed with adoptive families through a program Marcus and I helped establish. Javier Hernandez died in a Mexican prison, killed by rivals who blamed him for losing the cartel war to Vasquez's organization. Miguel Vasquez was serving 40 years in federal prison, his empire dismantled by the intelligence Emma had provided. Emma herself had become a ghost, locked away in federal prison, forgotten by the world she'd tried so hard to impress. Daddy, can we invite Uncle Marcus for dinner tonight? Lily asked, running up with sandy hands and a bright smile. I want to make my famous spaghetti. Uncle Marcus had become family in ways that mattered more than blood. He'd earned the title through loyalty, sacrifice, and showing up when it counted. I'd be honored, Marcus replied, ruffling her hair. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, I thought about the question that had haunted me since this nightmare began. How do you rebuild trust after betrayal? The answer was simple. You don't rebuild the old trust. You build something new, something stronger, with people who've proven themselves when everything was on the line. Daddy, Lily said, taking my hand as we walked back toward the car. Do you think Mommy ever thinks about us? It was the question I'd been dreading and preparing for simultaneously. In 2 years, Lily had never asked about Emma directly. I think she thinks about the choices she made, sweetheart. But those choices were hers to make, not ours to carry. I'm glad I have you and Uncle Marcus now, she said simply. Real families protect each other. From the mouths of babes. As we drove home to the small house in Coronado where Lily and I had built our new life, I realized that Emma's greatest failure wasn't the crime she'd committed. It was missing out on watching this incredible little girl grow into someone extraordinary. That evening, as Lily served her famous spaghetti to Marcus and me, chattering about school friends and weekend plans, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before the deployment to Syria: complete peace. The war was over. The family was safe. The future was bright. And sometimes, that's all the justice you need. The Yindi, but before we part ways, I need to ask you something that's been on my mind throughout this entire journey. If you had been in Ethan's position, facing the ultimate betrayal from someone you once loved, what would you have done differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.